Major bear market starting here. Major bear market. Do you think Bitcoin's going straight into a bear market? Look at this. This is crypto, Bitcoin. Even stocks are dropping right now. And look at this. It's testing this 92K area right here. This is so crucial. Let me just show you guys how big of a deal this chart, this supporting trend line is. Look at this. If we put this on the weekly chart, this is what Bitcoin been supporting Bitcoin since 15K here back in November 2022, and all this way, right? It didn't even bounce off this trend line here, and now we're right here. So you would think this 92K area, and this is more like at 90, this horizontal line, this rising trend line crosses at 92K, and this horizontal trend line is at more at 91.8. And look how many times it supported the bottom of this double top here at 108, 109K. This is back in December, January, just after Trump got elected, but before he got inaugurated as the 47th president. So this 91, 92K area is hugely crucial. We're retesting it right now. We probably get a wick through, right, to like into the 80s, like 88, 89, people freak out and then bounce from here. In my last episode, I spoke about why we're dumping right now. I've never heard this answer from anybody else on the internet or on social media right now. Pablo is the only one saying this. Basically, my explanation from the last episode was why we're dumping. And this episode, I'm going to explain when we will turn back up, if we turn back up. The reason we're dumping, just to quickly recap last episode, is because it's a 1-2 punch, left hand, right hand. Left hand is basically U.S. Treasury, which hands out all the checks to U.S. government employees and U.S. veterans, U.S. hospitals and teachers and, roads, DMV, right? They're not doing that right now. They've been shut down, but they've just reopened. Right, right-hand punch is the U.S. Federal Reserve, U.S. Treasury, U.S. Federal Reserve, which is basically paying out liquidity. They've been withdrawing so much liquidity from the system that that banks are actually short of money. They're borrowing money right now, and banks are basically going into a liquidity crisis, and therefore the Federal Reserve is going to end QT. We can see it right here, right? We can see it on this chart right here. This is basically when the Fed, this was all covered in the last episode. I'm just going to quickly recap and then go to when we're going to actually see the markets go up. I'm just quickly, for people who have been watching, recap why the market's been going down, because this was the money people had from COVID. They parked it in the banks, and the banks lend them out because extra cash. It's called reverse repos. When they run out, see here it comes close to zero. Some banks don't have enough money, right? Don't have enough reserves, and they need to borrow money. Borrow money for 24 hours. That's called standing repos. Reverse repos is the green. Standing repos is red, and they're borrowing money, right? Yeah, it was really bad last Friday. It got to 2 Fridays ago, I think, or last Friday. It got to like 50 billion. Now it's gotten better, but it's still kind of bad. Now, so what is the situation we're currently in right now? When would this pivot? Well, then let me show you this chart. This is the others dominance. Others is basically the top 100 altcoins, not including the top 10. So that's not including XRP, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Binance, Solana, those coins. So that means pretty much the mid caps, right? Such as Zcash, ZEC is included in there somewhere. The mid cap coins, Doge, Floki, those coins, this is their performance as a percentage of the overall market cap of crypto. You know how there's Bitcoin dominance, how much Bitcoin is against the rest of altcoins as the part of all crypto? Well, that's called Bitcoin dominance. This is called others dominance. This basically means the dominance of mid caps against all crypto. And look, we've just had this massive crash on October the 11th, thanks to CZ. Thank you, CZ. This is the daily chart. And then we formed actually this bull flag. This is actually not looking bad for mid-cap alts, even though the overall situation looks pretty terrible. Like if we put this line through here, right? This is actually not bad. This for mid bull flag, boom, we popped above, tapped the upper boundary, right? Bounced off there, and we're bouncing here, looking for the next leg up. So this is for the mid caps, but what happens? What happens next? What happens during QT? Let me just give you guys a clue. What happens during QT? Fed says QT ends on December the 1st, which is here, December the 1st. Can you see the date? December the 1st, right? What happened last time? Last time, others, mid caps, went into QT. It was here, September 2019. That's what happened. So what does all this mean for altcoin season? Before I answer that question, first let's answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo use? Well, Pablo uses exchange that's non-KYC. That means you don't need to show any ID. That means no one can see you, right? Even the exchange can't see you. That means the RIS can't see you. The tax office can't see you. The FBI, CIA, nobody can see you. Total privacy. That's why I made this competition with them. Totally private link, right? Only exclusive on the Pablo link. Win up to $40,000 prize pool. So just by being the top 20 of the trading volume, you get to win a prize. And by P&L or profit and loss competition, just by being the top 10, you get to win a prize. But limited time only, folks, because this deal finishes on 20th of November. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, then the link is in the description below. But if you're not watching on YouTube, you're watching on some other platform, such as this one, that's okay. Just click on my profile page, and there is my link tree or Stan link. And it should be the first deal that pops up because this is a great deal. Okay, let's get back to the markets, folks. But remember, this deal is only available on the Pablo link. Only on the Pablo link. Speaking of getting back to the markets, I know, because this page just popped up. I was just doing some research. This is an email that reveals Jeffrey Epstein financed $850,000 to Bitcoin core development, right? So this is basically, this is actually a true story because his emails got published by the Epstein estate. And $850,000 back then is more than $1 million. Right now, because he started donating in 2004 to like 2019 or something. So in other words, he's basically donated a lot of money to the Bitcoin core development. How much influence does he have on Bitcoin, Bitcoin's code? And some people even say Jeffrey Epstein is Satoshi Nakamoto. Anyways, I don't want to get into it. Let's get straight into Bitcoin. Let's get into the serious stuff. So basically what is happening here is that, yeah, I understand the situation's pretty bad, but now we're in extreme fear. It's 10 right now. This is the first time we reached 10 since like March or April this year when Trump crashed the markets due to the fear on tariff. When they declared tariff war on the rest of the world, including China, Europe, UK, the rest of the world. Now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to altcoins' dominance? As we were saying, QT ended in September 2019. There you go. September 2019 was what they call QT1. That's when it ended, right? So now if we look at this chart, QT1 ended here. September 2019, right here, September 2019. This is, once again, others, which is mid-caps, and look at what a historical run they went on. This was QT all the way through, right? It's basically others, mid-caps have been going down against Bitcoin all this time, and then QT ends, boom. Mid-caps went on a massive run. So it went from 5% of crypto market cap to 11%. So it doubled. It's not a double in price, it's a double in percentage. So if Bitcoin doubled, then this is 4x. If Bitcoin made a 4x in 2019, then this is like an 8x, right? This is a double in percentage. And back then, Bitcoin can just make moves like that. So now the next end of QT, quantitative tightening, or Fed taking money and liquidity out of the markets, ends 2 weeks from now, which is December the 1st. See here, this line here, December the 1st. 2 more chart patterns from here, right? And then we basically go end of QT. Judging by past behavior of crypto, we tend to go like this, right? We tend to go like this. Let's say for doubles. Here's 7.38. Let's call it even 7. We go to 14%. We would go to here. It's pretty crazy. That's even if we went halfway there. Let's call it 10.5%. We would go to here. Right? That's still pretty good. That's still pretty good. Now, the thing is, we have to look at 2 different charts. End of QT, 1 was very good for altcoins. Here, mid-caps, altcoins. It went up here. This crash, why did this crash happen? That was COVID. See the date here? 20th of, this was COVID. So it was past COVID. And then basically we had this in December 2020, but then the market kept on going. If you can withstand this kind of withdrawdowns, then it went all the way up to here, right? All the way up to here. Now, that's so QT. End of QT is very good for mid caps and probably small caps. It's altcoin season, but it's not good for Bitcoin. Let's have a look at how Bitcoin behaved when QT happened. So QT, as we can see, is September 2019. This is a weekly chart. Here is September 2019. Bitcoin was at what, 11,000. High was 11,000, and then by the end, by the dip, the December 2019, Bitcoin was at 6,000. So it almost got halved. That was like a 45% drop, and then it bounced back to 10,500. So not bad. It's sideways, but sometimes the drawdown can be 50%. I mean, if Bitcoin went down 50% from its high right now, which is 126K, and then it would be like 63K. Well, let's call it 70K. Could go down to 70K. And then if that repeated, that would be pretty bad. And this drop was, of course, due to COVID, but then quickly recovered because Fed printed money. If we don't count that, if we just look at this, it drops gradually, and then boom, up we go, right? But this period after COVID was due to Fed saying unlimited support and government sending out stimulus checks. So we can't count that either. So overall, for Bitcoin, it's a slowly downtrending, not a massive drop like this, but a slowly downtrending period for Bitcoin. But for mid-cap coins, after end of QT, it's a definite rise. That's what happened last time. And this would happen on December the 1st. Remember, the Fed has already publicly announced, and they're not going to take that back. 100%, I 100% guarantee you the Fed will start to stop QT on December the 1st. The question is, how fast can they start QE? Remember last week, my last video, I told folks that the Fed is basically going to end QT and start QE because they're seeing, rather than banks having extra money to deposit with the Fed, banks are now borrowing money from the Fed, right? Because the banks' extra reserves, this purple area, has run out. It's come to zero now. This is the start of 2024, but 2025 they've actually run out, and now bank reserves has now dipped down to 2.8 trillion, and this is a theoretical minimum for bank reserves. When we hit here, then basically banks start panicking, and we've seen that panic because we've seen the SOFR rate spike up, which is the secured overnight funding rate, which is how much interest rate banks charge each other by borrowing to each other, by lending from each other when they use collateral, when they use what they call secured, right? Secured collateral, which is when they actually give like a U.S. Treasury bill or U.S. Treasury bond as security. Even then, rates spike up. So that means there's very little liquidity in the system. That's why the Fed is ending QT on December the 1st. But they're probably starting to think about start QE in 2026. But it's probably going to be too late. Let me show you why. Well, the reason is, as I showed you guys in last episode, that the bank reserves are here in the blue and the standing repos are here in the red. It basically just means the extra money that banks have has run out. This entire chart, including the blue and red, is basically, you can interpret that as how much money the banks have, right? The red part is the extra money they have from COVID, from so much stimulus checks in the COVID. The blue part is actually the reserves they have. The red is all spent, as I explained in the last episode, and the blue is the minimum reserves they have, plus a few, some extra reserves. And now it's down to this level, 2.8, 85, 2.8, and this is the same level as what? As July 2026, 2020, July 2020, which is COVID year, which is basically when the Federal Reserve started doing unlimited QE, unlimited printing of US dollars, and 3 months later, we're at that level, right? It's basically we've come all the way up and come all the way down. So this is kind of an emergency situation for the banks. They definitely need to be panicking around here. Now, when banks are doing this, so then it's a question of so as we've just seen, QT could be bad for Bitcoin, because that's what happened in 2019. Although if you know math, if you know mathematics and statistics, you know that's a sample size of 1. But at least that's what happened last time, right? Even though it's a sample size of 1. And what happened last time was altcoins took off relative to Bitcoin. Altcoins season truly well started. If you look at this chart, you go, this is Bitcoin going, altcoins going down, Midcaps started that bull run here. Well, it started in September 2019. That's when QT ended. We are in a similar situation. Altcoins have been going down against Bitcoin, going down against Bitcoin. And then December 1st, they're going to end QT. We'll probably see a move like this, right? And they're going to start some sort of QE as well. But, however, for Bitcoin, as I've just shown you guys, Bitcoin actually goes down. It actually shakes sideways. It actually gets swings sideways. But the general trend is slowly going down. Not a big crash, but slow. Not a huge bear market, but slowly going down. So during this period, it is hard to say then what happens to Bitcoin and what happens to alts. But I wouldn't be so pessimistic on alts. I think altcoins could still have a run after this if Bitcoin turns up again, which I think 70% chance Bitcoin turns up, right? From around this high 80s, low 90s area, like 90, 92K area. This is a chart, for example, comparing the last time when Bitcoin in the last bull cycle was near its top and it had a 30% drop. If it had one more leg up, right? Here's a 30% drop and then had one more leg up. Now, right now, it's only had like a 27% drop at 92K, right? 92K, 27% drop. But if it goes one more leg up, what happens is this. Altcoins, mid caps. I'm not even talking the large caps like Ethereum, Solana. I'm talking mid caps like Zcash or Nano or LTC, Litecoin. Then these coins, others divided by Bitcoin, actually goes on a massive run. It crosses above its moving average, right? Here it moves. We are challenged that moving average right now. We could have similar sort of repeat. It's not like it hasn't happened in history before. This was a 30% drop. Right now we're only at like a 27% drop at 92K. We could go lower to like a wick down. Not a close, but a wick down to like 90, 89, 88K, scared the Jesus out of everyone by going to 80K and then bounce up again like it did here for one more leg up, and then alts would have a massive run, as I've shown you guys across all the charts right now. Okay, thank you for your attention and time, folks. I'll catch you guys for the next episode.